Hello, this is the House of Vizsla where we talk anything and everything Star Wars. Today I am here with Fives, our co host, and a very special guest, Cody. But before we start this episode, I do want to remind that we do have a merch store that also has a link to our Discord page. Check it out, link in the description. But back to the
Yep.
show. That
So today we're reviewing, as you might know, what's the movie?
think
Brave New World.
Yeah, that movie. It's not a
Yep.
Star Wars movie, but
Right.
it's in a
Because this is
galaxy
special.
not so far away. Um, there's some connections. We know Peter Parker and Ned of Star Wars fans building the Lego Death Star, and in Civil War, um, Peter Parker suggesting to um, bring down Ant-Man like it's an AT-AT.
Yeah.
But in this movie, we've got a
Pretty sure Star Wars
connection.
also makes it in Winter Soldier on the booklet that Captain America has.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
True.
with that said, there's um, a bit more connections
Bit of
in it.
overlap.
Bit
Mhm.
with uh, I forget the Industrial Light and Magic working behind the scenes with some of the special effects in it. Um, but Brave New Captain America: Brave New World came out. I forget when. It was a couple last month, right?
A few months ago. Yeah.
It came out February 14th, 2025. On Rotten Tomatoes, on the tomato meter, 48% by critics, and by the popcorn meter, 79%. So,
It's there.
but that could be with multiple other factors. But this is a spoiler review. It's been out for at least a month. Um,
Yeah.
so what did you think about it?
Why don't you go first, Cody?
Yeah, yeah. I thought it exceeded my expectations. I thought it was very well done. I have crazy high expectations to begin with, just with the general trends that we're seeing in Marvel right now. But I was pleased by a number of different factors within the film, some of the character development, the world building that you see across the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then again, there's a couple of parts that I think they might have been able to do better on. So overall,
Yeah.
pretty good movie. Yeah.
It also exceeded my expectations because the last few Marvel movies that have come out, I just didn't bother to watch them, based off of what I had heard. And this one though, I had seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you know, it was the series was kind of mid, but yeah, I thought the movie was pretty good for what it's worth.
Yeah, I also thought it was uh, pretty good. Um, I saw Ant-Man in theaters and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, was it?
Three, you know.
Three.
In theaters, and enjoyed them, but I feel like Marvel is right now over making content, which from like for Star Wars, they've had periods of no content. So but with Marvel, who just keep making movies, it becomes an oversaturated market.
Mm.
So,
Do you agree with that, Cody? I see some.
I I think I would agree. Yeah. I think the biggest problem right now is that they're really focused on fan service. They're
Mm,
more of making what what they think that we think is cool. And they're kind of overplaying a couple of cliches instead of coming out with a lot of just good, rich, original material.
right.
Yeah, I definitely would say that the quantity of content that they've come out with has contributed to that.
um, any other things like my brain's half asleep right now, so and we
Um.
have no plan of what to talk about and things. But want to give a quick overview of what the movie is about, and so
All
people
right,
have a better
we can do that.
understanding.
Yeah.
So, Captain America Mantle has went to Sam Wilson, who was previously the Falcon, um, at the during um, the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show. Um, at with at the end of Endgame, Steve Rogers giving the shield to Sam Wilson, and this picks up with him continuing the mantle and all the things that come around being Captain America without having superpowers. So, who wants to keep it going?
Um. I guess. I guess like the movie starts out with some combat that we see. Um. The Captain America, I guess he has. I guess he's improved. Like we can definitely tell he's improving on his. I don't know his skill. I guess. And they're on a mission to. What exactly are they trying to get again?
um,
So they are trying to recover um, the package, is what it's referred to at that point, which it
Hmm.
is later revealed that it is vibranium, the first vibranium that was mined from the um, Celestial, which is from the aftermath of the Eternals movie, where
Right.
Cersei turns the Celestial into not vibranium, excuse me, adamantium. So this is the first time that adamantium has been introduced into the mainstream MCU. So that's what they're recovering. It was stolen by a mercenary, Sidewinder, as part of the Serpent organization, which both of those, that character in that organization, we have not seen in the MCU prior to this. And that's their first mission, yes, is recovering that.
Nice.
Yeah, and so right away there in that scene, in a couple scenes previous, you hear the mantle of Captain America being prescribed now to Sam Wilson, which is started within, as we've already mentioned, the TV show Falcon Winter Soldier. So I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on why did this mantle, this Captain America mantle, needed to be passed on, and why did it go to Sam instead of someone else, such as Bucky, which was the other major choice.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think Captain America had his time, just like Iron Man, they had their time, and it was, I guess, time for the new generation, so to speak.
Mhm.
You can kind of see that in Star Wars too, but that I guess it's one reason that they kind of just made that choice to get rid of him and pass on the mantle. Um, those are my
Is
thoughts.
that to suggest that we're going to get another Iron Man that is specifically the mantle of Iron Man as opposed to some other
Well,
name?
yes. Well, at for instance, in the Spider-Man, you know, um,
Hmm.
Peter Parker is wrestling with that, right? As as he has Tony Stark's glasses, and and we kind of see the same thing. Not really, but it is kind of the same thing. Um, and I don't know when the next Spider-Man movie is coming out, but I think that's kind of part of it too.
Yeah, I think with the point of like Bucky not taking up the mantle, I think they had in the works of maybe having Bucky become White Wolf, which would make him more part of Wakanda than um, the Avengers, which I don't think they
Hmm.
Hmm.
have thought of. And they thought of doing it, but with the passing of the actor who played the Black Panther, I think they
Hmm.
decided not to go down that route yet.
Hmm.
All right. So you're saying that if Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther, if he hadn't have passed, then we would have seen more of the White Wolf as Bucky playing the White Wolf.
Yeah, because
Possibly.
we did see him at the in one of the background clips in one of the movies, him staying at Wakanda,
Yeah.
getting healed from being a Hydra operative. So it made
Right. No, that's absolutely.
sense, and with his bionic being made from by Wakanda,
Vibranium.
and they can basically
Hmm.
dismantle him in seconds. It makes sense that they um, he'd want to help them out more, and because
Yeah.
like right now he's the only person out of the quote unquote timeline, um
Right.
because his best friend Steve Rogers isn't there anymore. So he's trying to figure out, what do I do with my life now? So
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely the case. And I actually had forgotten that the title that White Wolf had been ascribed to him. It's been in two lines to my knowledge. It was in the ending of whichever movie that was. I can't remember. And it was also mentioned more as just this off one ironic line for Bucky to say, yeah, I'm the White Wolf, actually. So I had forgotten that that was actually his title. Um, it's interesting if they ever had intentions to go further with that,
Yeah.
or if that was just meant to pique our interest and nothing more.
um but I think if and in this they wanted Thaddeus Ross, who's played by Harrison Ford and is the president, told Sam, "Hey, I want to restart the Avengers."
Hmm.
I think the whole thing of, "Hey, the event you can restart the Avengers, but it shouldn't go by the Avengers," because the Avengers are Black Widow, Hawkeye, Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and the original members
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
first in the Avengers
The
movie.
original Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to disagree to a certain extent. Like that's absolutely the sentiment there, and they are absolutely the originals. However, we have heard already in the MCU other individuals being called Avengers, and so you see in Age of Ultron, or Hawkeye straight up calls the Scarlet Witch an Avenger if she chooses to fight um, in Sokovia. And then even in Endgame, says Avengers Assemble, and that's attributed to the entire team that would have been present at that final game. So, or at that final battle. So,
Game.
the
Yeah.
term Avengers has been used to describe every number of individuals. And so, it's difficult to balance. Do we keep with the sentimentality of, yeah, those are the original six, those are our six Avengers, or do we allow it to evolve and grow a little bit more with the risk of just absolutely losing the value that you had at the beginning?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, was the official Avengers after Civil War kind of dismantled, and they just came together again because they had a threat, and Captain America just needed a catch phrase to say, and he said "Avengers Assemble," just
Yeah.
because that's the quote unquote Avengers um, like saying. Like if you go back to like Transformers, Optimus Prime always says Transformers Assemble
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
roll
that,
out.
that could absolutely.
So with him yelling it, it's hey, let's go. Same thing as like I think Black Panther also had something whenever they Wakanda charged to battle.
Wakanda forever.
Yes. So
Yeah.
Avengers Assemble is just the catchphrase that they decided to use because it was a life and death situation for the Earth completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, but do you think that um, Thaddeus Ross will ever be in another film and Red Hulk show up again, or do you think it was a one-time thing?
I have to imagine that he will be. I think it would have been a mistake to hire such a high profile actor as Harrison Ford to
Right.
play Thunderbolt Ross with no intention of using him after this film. In addition to, we have the upcoming film Thunderbolts, which is named after him. So I'd hope he at least makes an appearance. However, from the previews that I've seen so far, it doesn't seem to suggest that Thunderbolt Ross or um, the Red Hulk are going to make an appearance. So your guess is as good
Yeah.
as mine on that.
So
I do think it's
what are some things that you guys did not like about the movie that could have been better, you know?
I think um, the opening of the uh, film was amazing, and then once it got to like the middle, they had it set up to go one way, and then like the production team was like, "Hey, let's go this way instead," and it seemed to be like two stories that they tried to merge together. Because near the
Mm.
end, it kind of became weird with just the storytelling of it.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree with that. As far as pacing goes, like it didn't really give the audience time to catch its breath and understand, okay, what is going on here? What is going on with these characters? It kind of went blasting through, and then we get to the part where you have your scrimmage at Celestial Island, and it feels like you're coming to the culmination of these events, right? That's going to be your big ending, and then you're left completely unsatisfied, and then your real culmination, your real conclusion is going to be happening a little bit later at the White House. And so I didn't feel like that was a second act difficulty or challenge, felt like a third act final battle. And so when it wasn't, that kind of just caught me off guard. And so with the
Right.
pacing, with the storytelling that way, I was just caught off guard. I was a little confused at that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Makes
they
sense.
I think originally um with like concept trail it showed Red Hulk being more of the bad guy, but in this it went a completely different way with the really smart guy. I forget.
Yeah.
The
Whoever that
leader.
random guy, yeah, just out of the blue, and I was like, "What? I've never heard of this guy."
Which
I think it was an interesting play making him like the main villain behind it. I just wasn't a big fan of that plot. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I could appreciate it just because you're introducing a new Hulk character, okay? And so
Hmm.
like I've been saying, a lot of these films are based off of fan service, and so they're trying to connect. What are some connections we can make with this Hulk character? And so they go all the way back to the very first movie, the Hulk, right?
Incredible Hulk.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was right, Incredible Hulk film, I think 2008, and that's where we initially see the character of Thaddeus Ross, right? So that's another connection. Um, now that was back when he was being played by William Hurt, Harrison Ford, but the leader was the person in charge of creating what would be the antagonist in that film, the Abomination, right? And so, actually, in an end credit scene there, you can see him turning into the leader, and then cuts to black, and you never hear from him again until this movie. So I
Hmm.
was not expecting it. I did see it coming towards the beginning of the movie. They start recapping a lot of the adventures from Hulk, and so I'm like, oh, that's going to be important information. And sure enough, they mention um, the character who would be the leader. And so, okay, so that's the play there. Is they're trying to bring back this character that is seemingly lost in the MCU, right? They didn't touch him for however many years, and they're drawing
Hmm.
that in as a connection to Thaddeus Ross to the Hulk.
Interesting. Yeah.
Uh, Definitely some like fan service and nostalgia trying to put it in, but with you can utilize the nostalgia, the fan service, but if there isn't really an over if the story isn't there and all it is fan service, is it actually a good creative film or show, or is it just, hey, we got money to spend, let's spend it trying to make money on fan service, which is a
Right?
good
And that
good
is absolutely
which is a good thing for production companies to use, but when you just
Yeah.
use fan service, you get no story, which then what's the point?
Loses some fans. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And for this film, I would say they were teetering. They were teetering on the edge. Um, I definitely felt like the draw of that fan service. But there were still a couple of parts, like I mentioned, that were well appreciated and that were quite original. So it was teetering.
Yeah.
It wasn't fully fan service. It was definitely
Um, so we are 26 minutes in. We could choose to end or keep going.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I mean, there's a couple of other loose ends that we could definitely tie up with um Sidewinder. Who is he? What's his character? What is he doing in the film? Um,
Hmm.
I would love to talk about the campaigning, the politics, the optics. That
Yeah,
seems to be an underlying theme. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys need to stop now, that's
No,
absolutely
I,
up to you guys. But
I, I was just saying, hey, we've got enough time through it. We can go for longer. So yeah,
yeah.
I think Sidewinder, which was, if remember right, was played by Gina Epazat, maybe.
Um, yeah. I guess he provides some comic relief at
But
certain points.
um, he's been in Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Mandalorian
Yeah,
as Moff Gideon. So and
yeah,
he's in Captain America and seems to be just a minor role, and instead of just continuing on and making actually a good, make him be a good villain, and it was just, hey, we need you to do this one thing, and see ya.
right. Um, yeah, I was interested. Like at the beginning, I was curious who is this character, especially who is Serpent. That's not an organization that I recall from any other Marvel content. I do think that there is some um, common common um, influence there. I just don't know what it is. But I will say, like the Sidewinder, he was part of my absolute least favorite scene in this film, and that was the ambush when Sidewinder ambushes Sam Wilson in his car, um, blows it up, whatnot. They continue to fight on the streets. I absolute least favorite scene, and that's just because of the unbelievability of it all. Like there's a certain suspension of belief that you must have when you're going into any of these movies, Marvel, Star Wars, whatever it be. But the fact that Sam Wilson gets stabbed twice and just walks it off, does not grimace, does not yelp at all, does not show any emotion whatsoever, just kind of detracts, I thought, from his character because this guy doesn't have, right?
Yeah.
He's not a
yeah.
super
He's not a super
soldier,
soldier.
just
Yeah,
regular guy. Absolutely. And that's
I
part of his character. Like that's a very particular part of his character.
But
yeah. I
there's like
also thought that
the
was a flaw. He's like,
when you have sometimes when you're in a fight, adrenaline is pumping, and you can go through even the
okay, yeah,
getting injured. You
that
can
is
keep
true.
going, and he's also a pre. He was in the Air Force Pro, so he probably has seen some bit of
Hmm.
combat because he was like he used the Falcon wings for some of
Mm-hmm.
his walks, so he's seen combat probably, and so I think just getting he's used to being in getting injured and having to push through, but I think that whole scene was misdone, even just shooting up the car and it not being when he's actually having the suit on, him just driving around. So
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. I just thought of this now. It in that case, as you say, like it seems to be a mirror of the fight in the streets from Captain America Winter Soldier. Would you disagree with that?
Which fight in the streets again?
Yes.
That was yeah. So when um, let's see, Steven and Natasha riding the car with the one Hydra agent. Um, Bucky appears on scene, whips the wheel right out of the car. Um,
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then that just
I would think
culminates in a
so. It
whole bunch of
Uh, Actually, fun
hmm
fact. So this clip right. This scene.
mhm.
So,
Yeah.
fun fact. This clip was actually filmed in Cleveland on one of the bridges. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
and like
Fascinating.
part of it was actually filmed in like I think uh
The Earth.
um
Do do do.
so I don't remember how it was, but I know Paul um Tomono towel was used for part of it. Forget when, but I think yeah, probably drawing close to like that scene, that fight, but
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up actually is because there's another fight at the beginning of the film with Sidewinder in, gosh, is that in Mexico? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
That very first mission, there's a fight in the chapel between um, Captain America, Sam Wilson, and this unnamed large
The
beefy guy,
henchman guy.
right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. That
hmm
scene I clocked right away as an allusion towards fight between Captain America and the Hulk, the Leaper, on the Lemurian Star in Captain America Winter Soldier. Like that was a very
mm
clear um,
connection.
illusion between those two fight scenes.
Yeah. Some
And I think
parallels.
just this movie, right? I think that's just this movie trying to push that mantle and just cement it around our new Captain America, our
Sam
Sam
Wilson.
Wilson.
Um, I think uh, yeah, even with like him not wanting to take a super serum, it shows that he's actually a human hero to happen to be in the mantle of Captain America instead of get the character what the character's name, but the other super uh Isaiah Bradley, who was
Mm-hmm.
also a super soldier, and how his treatment was worse just because probably of the color of his skin, being a super uh soldier. So yeah,
Yeah.
you want to go into like the other point you wanted to bring up?
Politics.
Yeah,
Oh gosh,
and
where
policy.
where should I go? Oh, optics. Well, let's just talk about politics for a second because like the very first scene, like the scene in Mexico was the very first fight scene, but I think that happened after the initial credits. The pre credits would have been um Thaddeus Ross going up. He takes the pill first, heads up, and was it his commencement address? I can't really recall.
Yeah, something like
Um,
that.
to the American people, right? And
Hmm.
one thing that I noticed was his campaign was surrounded around the idea of together, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
That was also seen in previous movies. The biggest one I can think of is already been bouncing between a couple of movies here. Starting Age of Ultron, uh, in Avengers Tower, following Ultron's initial attack. Um,
Okay.
Captain America, Iron Man are dialoguing, and Iron Man says, "But we'll lose," and um,
Right. Yeah.
Captain America says, "We'll do that together too," right? That's
Yeah.
followed up in Endgame, where uh, Iron Man says, "You said we're going to be together. Where were you? You weren't there."
Mm.
Right? So this togetherness was that initial sentiment that is completely lost in Civil War that breeds catastrophe all the way towards Avengers Endgame. And now it's Thaddeus Ross who is bringing it back as part of his campaign to be president.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice that, so it's a good catch.
Yeah. Yeah. Just gonna say yeah. I think if they had like a show of and bring Thaddeus Ross more into like mainstream as a character instead of his previous uh when he showed up as just a side character or general who just didn't like certain things and stuff, and we actually got to know who Thaddeus Ross was, um, not as just a side character. I think it would have been we would have gotten to know the character much better, um, and it would help make him seem di- would be different than this. It's just this character who's shown up here, not liking certain things about the Avengers, and then he happens to become president. So
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to be a very different character than previously seen, and they mentioned that
Right.
a couple of times. And he says himself that Betty, his daughter, doesn't believe that he's actually changed. So it's clear that
Right.
he understands that there's been a change. Other people understand that there has been a change, and us as the audience, we can see that very clearly between the Incredible Hulk, his actions in Civil War, and now his actions in
yeah,
Captain America Brave.
Definitely.
I think the whole um his like um director of like I forget the character, but I think it was yes, his um like his one security aide thinks
Agent Taylor, is that who
um
you're thinking of? Or
maybe
are you talking about the Black Widow character, Ruth?
I think
Yeah.
uh Ruth or something.
Yeah, Ruth is the Black Widow
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
I don't know what her official role is aside from security.
Yeah.
Um
Which, how did you guys um, react to her being a Black Widow?
I think it
I was kind of surprised. Um, but it is kind of cool that they made that connection. And then it also brings it brings up some questions to the other characters. I think somebody mentions um something about here. Um, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it's kind of interesting that they brought that up.
I think it just shows that there were more Black Widows, and in the Marvel universe, because we had
Hmm.
the um,
Black Widow and her sister,
Widow
right?
film, and we knew that there were a few. There was a
Yeah.
whole Black uh, Widow organization, and um, her sister was a Black Widow, and there was few other people too. It just shows, hey, there are many Black Widows characters, and probably a potential replacement for um, Black Widow in the new Avengers team up. So, anything else?
Um, I'm curious. So we touched on it just slightly previously. About the character Stearns, the leader, right? The main antagonist. Um, his gamma infused brain gives him um, extreme intelligence, and in particular, the ability to assess probability, right? And
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
curious what your guys' thoughts are on his abilities, and also just what was his role as the villain? How did he measure up as a villain? Was this a compelling villain to you guys?
Eh, I think he kind of fell short.
Yeah,
Like he had more potential.
yeah. I think um, yeah, definitely think he would definitely had multiple um, would have been a better villain if they actually utilized him more um, than just um, than twice in the whole franchise. So
Mhm. No, I can definitely see that. For me, like I was really enamored by his ability, specifically that probability power that he seems to have, where he can see the probable outcomes. Um, and you see that in a number of different plays that he makes, is he understands um these his targets' behaviors, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
and plays to those strengths. It is interesting. What there was one time where he was wrong. He mentions um, it was while Captain America and the new Falcon Joaquin were on their way to, I can't recall the name of the base. It was Echo One or something. The base where Stearns was hidden. He understood that they were coming to find him, and so Stearns causes someone to go and murder four of the five shooters, right?
Hmm.
that scene where um, the Black Widow is actually present for that, where one of the guards shoots for the five
Yeah.
prisoners. Um, Stearns mentions that there was an 85% probability that once Captain America found out that his friend Isaiah Bradley was in danger, they would just turn around. And so that was his contingency plan was, okay, threaten Isaiah Bradley, they're going to stay away from him. And that actually failed. So that was one
Hmm.
instance where the probability didn't measure up. But in light of that, there were a number of other instances where his probabilities actually did work out to his benefit. So I thought that was really fascinating, but I absolutely agree with you guys that he wasn't used to his utmost potential. Um, and in particular, I was really having a hard time finding his motive. The best I
Yeah.
could gather, you guys can, you're right, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. The best I can gather is that it was just a revenge plot
Yeah,
against Thunderbolt
Yeah.
for pretty much lying to him and hiding it.
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Revenge, making him look bad. And
definitely for his like first on-screen uh vil- villain in his own standalone movie, I think it was kind of a small villain. Um, Even though he had Sam Wilson did have to fight the Red Hulk, which was out a bad outcome because half of DCC basically got destroyed, and um, but also it shows the full circle of because of the events of Sokovia and the Sokovia Accords and the attack at the airport and the whole um, captain side of Civil War going, getting imprisoned, and then they get out after some time and showing that, oh, Thaddeus Ross, the one kind of behind the Sokovia Accords of making this happen, um, and putting them in prison, he ended up going to prison as well at the end of this. So, but anything else you have? If not,
Let's see. Um, so I'm pretty sure asked both of you this before. Um, One of the big ideas in the beginning was reforming the Avengers, and so if we do reform the Avengers, who are you guys going to be putting on that roster? And more specifically, who do you think Marvel is going to be trying to put on that roster for the upcoming Marvel movies, upcoming Avengers?
I think um, there's gonna be probably a possibility that um, with the whole multiverse thing and them getting LDJ to play Doctor Doom, that there's gonna be this other um, multiverse Tony Stark, who happens to become Doctor Doom in that universe. He comes over and he's trying to take over the whole multiverse and ends up going on this Earth, and then he's gonna make his way, pretending to be good and just deceiving everyone and going in through the um, inside and being an Avengers and destroying the main Earth from the inside. Because you have uh, t- RDJ coming back to play a villain why not make it be the alter ego of the bad guy version of Tony Stark? So,
Mm.
because you're paying all that
All right,
money,
so you're saying,
you're paying RDJ a lot of money to come back to be the villain, and he's
mhm.
gonna probably have to have a ton of be more prominent than just the villain throughout the arc. He's gonna have to be in there. You don't know that he's gonna be the villain until the end because they've said, oh, he's gonna be Doctor Doom, but we don't know how they're gonna do the whole Doctor Doom situation.
Interesting. So you're saying they're going to have RDJ come in and they're going to disguise this Doctor Doom as just another Iron Man,
Yeah,
and they're going to convince us that he's Iron Man when in actuality he's going to be revealed as Doctor Doom.
yeah, because
Fascinating.
you're
Okay.
playing you're playing at fan service, bringing back Iron Man, and then
Hmm.
you're switching the narrative of um oh, he's actually the villain the whole time instead of oh, it just happens to be another Iron Man in the multiverse coming in as to help out or something, because they've opened up
Right.
this can of worms of time travel and multiverse things. And if um, Tony was still alive um, after he did I Am Iron Man in Endgame, um, and wiping out everything and changing stuff and ending up dying. But if he stayed alive, he'd be the worst enemy because he's gonna want to try to save everyone and kind of make an Ultron. He's gonna find another world that actually had a successful Ultron network made and recreate it and be the multiverse's worst enemy because he'd want to save all the other Tonys. So
Interesting. All right, then who, if even as a disguised antagonist, who would be your primary protagonist against Thanos?
I I think you're gonna have to use the whole time travel thing. Um, if he is, you want Doctor Doom to be it, but also have the appearance of Iron Man showing up. You're you're gonna have to use, kind of like how in the Flash show, um, Zoom was able to be there, and then he time traveled um back to then and had dual persons of himself, one pretending to be this good guy Jay Garrick, where he's actually the bad guy. Use the whole time travel thing, and you're gonna still have Doctor Doom, but he's probably gonna be masked. You're not gonna know who's underneath the mask until things go south.
All
But
right.
you probably don't want to show that, oh, it's actually um, RDJ until the end, where it could be just him manipulating androids at different times and basically being forget Jake Gyllenhaal's character in Spider-Man, basically
Hmm.
utilizing technology and manipulating everyone, thinking, "Oh, this is the bad guy," but truly he himself is the bad guy. Because why are you paying so much money for ODJ to come back to be Doctor Doom and not try to hint Iron Man's return and stuff? Because if you were gonna not do
Yeah.
that, you're gonna have a different actor playing Doctor Doom. Because I think there was one comic series where Doctor Doom was Tony Stark, and it was his friend figured out how to like switch consciences or something. I, I saw a video about it, but that's the only thing that I could come up with.
What about you, Fives? Who would you expect to be on this up and coming Avengers roster?
Um, I honestly have no idea. I would definitely say Captain America and just some of the characters that we've been seeing in the later Marvel movies, but I they could really put anyone they wanted. So
I
I
think
don't know.
I think
Right, for sure.
we aren't probably gonna get a Bruce Ban. We aren't gonna get Bruce Banner showing up, or Thor, um, or Hawkeye in there. We may get Kate Bishop to portray the next Hawkeye, but I think the time of the old hero is all gone. It's probably there's a potentially Doctor Strange is gonna be there, but with everything of Multiverse of Madness, are they gonna actually try to do more with Doctor Strange and
Yeah.
the other side hero, or are they gonna switch to Wong, or potentially use there's gonna be a new Sorcerer, and it be Peter Parker's best friend,
Mm.
because they hinted him using the making the magic portal,
Well, yeah, but hmm
but
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I'm kind of in the same boat over here where I really don't know where the MCU is heading with any sort of mainstream core Avengers group. I would agree. I think if there was one, it would be headed up by Sam Wilson, Captain America, as well as probably Joaquin, the new Falcon. Um, I don't know who else they would try to put on it though.
maybe
I
yeah.
agree. They're probably not going to be
maybe
taken back. They're not going to be bringing back Hulk, Thor, or Hawkeye. Kate Bishop is a possibility, but I think what is going to happen instead is there going to be a whole lot of splinter groups. They might have this core Avengers group, but there's going to have the Young Avengers with Kate Bishop, with Ms. Marvel, with Wiccan from um, WandaVision and House of not House of Carcass, Agatha All Around. They're gonna have the Thunderbolts. Uh, they're gonna have a lot of smaller groups, individual groups, as opposed to a core Avengers. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the best that I can do as of right
um, they've announced that they're making more Avengers movies, but I think it's gonna potentially go um, downhill, because they're gonna try to utilize fan service, but then also the nostalgia of having ODJ there, and it could be cool if they get the story right, but without a good story, and you've got the creatives there, Rosso brothers directing it, but you don't. Um, but if the story's not there, and the higher ups at Disney and are trying to put their feet in the direction of it, it'll probably not end well for Marvel as a whole. So we are over an hour. If there's anything else to add it now, or forever hold your peace. But with that said, make sure to subscribe on our YouTube or join our Discord. We do have the merch store, which has the links to all our socials and our Discord server. With that, may the force be with you.